Hello folks, welcome back to the channel. Joe Heck, K1LBG. My name's Joe. Should be obvious, but you can never tell. Today, or this video, because it's not going to be just today, we are going to resurrect a press, a hydraulic press, I guess you'd say, a floor model. I have a small desktop model that I put legs on that's 6 ton, I think. I believe this one's 12 or 20 ton. So let me show you where we stand with this. So of course the contrast is going to be terrible because this press is up against my Toro snowblower. So one's just a little more orange than the other. But this looks like it's a Hein Warner press. And it's a floor model, as you can see. And it's a part, as you can see. There's the top half of it. And this is the bottom part of the frame. That mounts in the holes to get your height. And the jack sits up on top of this. And the two bolts hold it up, and the jack sits right in here and presses down against the springs. Well, someone put a little too much tension on it, and as you can see, this one is bent and the other one snapped off. They're 3/4 inch fine thread. And what I am going to attempt to do, and I believe I can do it, is I'm going to drill, let's do it this way. I'm going to drill out these holes and these holes and maybe plate this to get a little, keep the strength in it. And if I have to, I'll probably drill out. The cups aren't so bad, they're just tin. And finally, the holes in here, I'm going to drill them out to 1 inch because I picked up 2 new pieces of 1 inch rod. The reason I'm doing that, my friend that gave it to me gave me some 3/4 inch rod. But the problem with the threaded rod is twofold. Because it's threaded, you've lost some of the 3/4 inch diameter. Number two, it's probably mild steel. And I don't think these are mild steel. I think these might have been a little hardened. In any case, it doesn't hurt. So I'm going up to 1 inch, which, if you look at the area of 3/4 inch versus 1 inch, the 1 inch is about 60%, 66% more area. So it really should do a better job holding. So what I'm going to do is probably chuck those in the lathe, prep them for the bottom, stick them in, look at my jack. I have to see if that's I think it's probably only a 10-ton jack over there, the red one. I might get a 20-ton from one of the local discount stores, and maybe just use it in this. So that's where we are right now. That's the goal, and this is what we're starting with. All right. So I have a bunch of holes that I have to enlarge from 3/4 of an inch to 1 inch. And when I set them up and clamp them down, I've got to have them centered. So what I'm going to do is take this broken top, which is 3/4 inch, chuck it in the lathe. I guess it's focusing. And put a center drill in it so I can drop this in the hole and line that up so that I get my new hole in the same spot. So that's the next step. Try that. All right, the first step in enlarging those holes, as I said, is to get a reference point. So we're going to stick this in here, tighten it up, slide a center drill down. And give me a spot that I can line up my drill press with. We're almost there. Trying to get a little to the taper. Like that. Maybe a little more. Let's see how that looks. Well, that should give me a good reference point. So, hard to see, but it's there. All right. We'll bring that over and start working over on the drill press on things. So one of the problems with using a drill press such as this is a limited, you can't see it in here, but I can only go down 3 or 4 inches, it looks like. And if I loosen the base up to move it up and down, there's no key on the back so that this will shift. So you have to try to find a good medium. And oh, by the way, I decided not to use this right now. I'm going to try it using this is a 49/64 bit, so it's just a hair over 3/4. I ran it down through, got this centered. And I'm going to try to use a drill bit instead of that center. But the question becomes, can I loosen up the chuck enough, which I can, to get out that bit? And I want to see, and the problem with this one, see, this moves a little. So that, to me, that's not as accurate as using a bit that just fits really snug. The question becomes, if I put him in, and I've raised this up by the thickness of this, so instead of destroying the bed of my vise, I chew into that aluminum. Unfortunately, it looks like in the past I've already chewed into it a little. Now the question is this bit sharp enough, or is it going to try to walk? Well, you get the idea. It's cutting not well, but I think it's good enough. This is going to be definitely the biggest piece, the thickest solid. So I'll just keep it up. You don't need to watch all of this, but you see how I started anyway. Okay, first hole is done. You can see that's nice and shiny. I actually had to take in the drill press head, speed it up significantly. You can see it's going quite a bit faster. And in changing the way the belts were, I was able to get it tighter on the belts so it didn't keep hanging up. So it goes quite a bit faster this way. And yeah, so you don't need to watch this again, but it's going well, and this is the worst piece. Okay, so something I'll say interesting has happened. Not quite finished with this hole, but I basically ran out of throw here. Now I can move this up. These nuts vibrated loose. So I'm going to try that. But if that doesn't work, because the hole is 3/4 of the way through, I feel comfortable in having to release the base, not the base, my platform from the mast, and if it pivots, I can recenter it. But I just move this down a little. It's going to be a little noisy. And I hit bottom. I don't have a lot to go. So I've only got about 1/8 or 1/4 of an inch. So I'm going to drop the drill bit. Now what had happened is this drill, being chucked in a hand drill several times, got pretty well chewed up. And in fact, I spun it again in here. But I just shaved a little bit off in the lathe. So now if I move it down to about there, I should have plenty to make it all the way through. And hopefully it's not out of round. But it is. Probably because I'm chucked on top of those score marks. Pause. Alright, I got rid of the jaw marks. Yeah, that's pretty good. So we'll just finish this hole. Not tight enough. Ugh, okay. Almost. Boy, there's just a tiny ring left. All right. So there's my holes. I'll try to put the new rod in it. I will still need this because, of course, I think most of the rest of the stuff I can't chuck in here. It has to be done where it sits. For some reason, oh, maybe my eyes are just bad. It looked blurry to me. Okay, so here's the piece I just drilled. Here is a rod. Boy, the rod is a little tight, I guess. I'm going to have to hone those out or something. I expected the 1-inch, the 1-inch drill to leave me a little more space than that. So maybe I gotta all right, so I'm going to have to maybe ream those out. I think I have a reamer that'll do 1 inch. So, but as I said, that's the thick part, the hard part. The piece in here is, oh, I don't know, 3/8 plate. So those holes should drill pretty easy. The cups those will punch out, and that plate's pretty easy. So the trick is to maybe take these, chuck them in the big lathe, take some sandpaper to them and clean them up, and then take this guy and hone them or ream those out slightly. I switched to my big lathe because the 1-inch bar stock won't fit through the headstock of my 9-inch lathe. So I took some sandpaper, I don't know, what is it, 100 grit, and cleaned this up quite a bit. But it still feels there's a couple tough spots. And I actually was able to slide this on a little bit, but it's tight. So I still think I'm going to run a reamer through that. And I'm going to maybe use a file on this. I don't know yet. But that's where I am. We're getting there. This is the tough part. So we also have to take these caps. This is a 3/4 inch hole, and drill that out so that we can get the 1-inch rod through. So I'm going to use an 1 1/8 drill bit in my tailstock, and this is not perfectly centered, but for what we need to do with it, it's good enough. This is one of the combination chucks. It's a 4-jaw, but once you get those aligned, you have a common screw on the back, making it look like a 3-jaw. So I believe that's it. That's all it needs. So do the other 3 the same way, and that will take care of the end cups for the springs. Okay, folks, I'm going to recap here because I skipped a couple of steps, and I'm down to almost being done. There were 3 pieces that I had to enlarge. This is piece number 2. This is the actual plunger. The jack sits on the top and it pushes down through the last piece that needs to be drilled out. So I took a chance. I didn't try to clamp this down. I did not try to clamp this down in the vise on the drill press. I simply put it in there, rested it on top, drilled the 1-inch hole through, which went pretty well. And then I drilled 1 1/8 because the pipes at 1 inch are just a little too tight. The drill is pretty well worn, so the flutes on the side bind up going through. So I had to only go through about halfway on each side. Then, of course, the holes weren't quite lined up. So I took a file and cleaned it up. And that works really, really well now. So the other issue I had is that this plate, because of the way it broke, I believe, this plate had a bend in it here. And it was bent up. So this was no longer straight, it came down like this a little, just a little. So I didn't know, this is pretty thick stuff, but I stuck it in my little 6-ton press and I worked it a little here, a little over here, you know, some, because I couldn't just press it all at once, it was too much. So I tried to do one edge, do another edge, and I can actually see the marks, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and it worked pretty well. And in fact, right here on my last press, the paint started blowing off slightly. I can actually see the gray steel underneath. So it did bend, and it looks pretty good. It's certainly good enough for what I need here. These you saw me drill one out, which was fine. I should probably clean them up a little, but you know, for where they're going, I'm not going to worry about that too much. Take out the big pieces. This one's full of grease. So the last piece, and I'm going to move you down even more because this is getting really heavy. Actually, what I should do is move you down this way so you're not so high up. Alright, so now this last piece, you saw me drill this. This worked out really well. I have some honing brushes. I honed the inside a little, used a little metal grinding compound just to smooth them out because I thought they'd have to slide on here really nice. And then, of course, when I got done with all that, I realized they're not going anywhere, so I could have just left them snug. But be that as it may, then the next step was to cut these threads 1 inch by 8, and that wasn't too terribly bad, except, and I'll probably show you when I do the other end. I have to do the other end to get into the base. The nuts that I have, I only have 2 regular machine nuts. The rest are Galvy. And galvanized nuts have deeper threads, so when you put a piece of galvanized threaded rod in, they fit snug. On regular steel, they fit a little loose. So they're loose on the bottom. They don't have a lot of bite on the threads, but that really doesn't matter too much. That's just a placeholder almost so it doesn't slide. The ones on top matter, so I'm putting on a regular Galvy, and then on top of that I'm putting on a regular steel nut. And I'll run this down once I get done finishing these. I ordered a jack, and once I get the jack I can determine the length of these, because these are 3 feet. They're a little too long. I think they're going to come down to about 30 inches. But I'll know when I get the jack. And I will show you how I threaded these. And I threaded these not the best way, and I may change it, because all I did, and again I'm going to move you over here, all I did was put my threaded rod in, and of course this was further back, made sure I started on the right side, ran my, I had a piece of pipe here. I guess it fell down. There it is. I had a piece of this that I pushed up against the die, and then again used a tailstock with a live center and pushed it up pretty hard against it so it would start cutting threads on the rod. Now, I ran it at 68 RPM. That's the slowest I can go. And these handles aren't meant to have torsion on one side. You're supposed to hold both of them. But I did not. I simply let it wind its way in and used the carriage as my stop. Not the best thing to do. And this is the time where I tell you what I did, not what you should do. I'm not the pro here. So the interesting part is this guy, you probably can't see it, right here is a split. So this die, if you put it in the right holder, you could actually drive a screw down through it and spread this slightly. And if I did that, I could probably make those nuts fit really tight. I'll see what happens when I try to do the last ones. It might be simpler to just get a couple of regular machine nuts. Then go through all that. So we've done the absolute top, which you just saw with the two rods on it. We've done the plunger, and that fits really good. We've done the spring holders. Those fit really good. So the last thing is the base, to drill the two holes out in the base. That will be a challenge because I can't remove that plate. And that plate is also bent a little. So I will probably make up a couple of smaller plates just so when I bolt it together that has a little extra strength in there. And I haven't decided, but I'm probably going to take that top piece and put a couple extra supports on the sides of that since I drilled it out from 1 inch to 1 inch and... No, from 3/4 of an inch to 1 inch. Sure seems like there's plenty of meat there, but when you put 20 tons of pressure against it, something may give. So that's where I am right now. Making good progress, better than I expected. So we'll get back to you at the next step. We are waiting for it to warm up a little outside. It's in the 30s, maybe low 40s. So this afternoon I'll go outside and do some welding on a couple of projects, one of them being this and another project, and also do some plasma cutting. So I wanted to reinforce that top bar where I made the hole go from 3/4 to 1 1/16. So I'm going to cut out of this plate. See the black? I got one there and one over here. This is a scrap plate, obviously. I've already cut it up. And plate the sides, because this is 1/4 or 3/8 thick. And then out of that end, I'm going to cut 2 5x7 plates and put holes in the middle. 1 inch, and those will reinforce the bottom of the bent unit that we're going to drill very shortly. I tipped this over. I'm going to drill these out to 1 inch, and it's really hard to see, but this is bent in. This hole has been pulled in, and this one's been pulled in. So I'm going to put a plate. Let's see if I can get a little... I can't get much contrast here. So I'll just put a plate in here, and when I sandwich it together, it'll be fine. I don't have to weld it. But yeah, it bows in a 1/16 or 1/8 of an inch, so someone's really put some pressure on it. So that's the next step. I may try to drill those now. That's going to be tough because it's going to be with a portable drill. All right, just a quick note here. You can see that the hole on the left is bigger by quite a bit than the hole on the right. And there's all kinds of metal shavings around, which is okay. I can scoop them up with my magnet. 5 to 10 minutes of drilling, not terrible. I used my right angle drill so that I had a fair amount of control, which was good because it did hang up once, and instead of breaking my wrist, it simply stalled the motor. So I'll tackle the other one in a bit, but I just wanted to show you that we're almost done drilling holes. I have 2 more to do for the plates that go on the bottom of this, but that's going to be done on the drill press. And I have to cut them out of the plate before I can drill them. All right, next step. I am now going to drill the hole slightly over 1 inch in these 2 5x7 plates. These are going to reinforce the bottom of the hydraulic press, where that plate that's underneath has already been sucked up by too much pressure. So if you can see the X, the poor X, that's pretty much the center. And what I did is I put my center up to it and then adjusted the 4-jaw chuck, which I turn these around, they've always been the other way, to get that pretty much centered. Then I'm going to bull right through this with one drill bit. I'm not going to try to stagger them all. I'm just going to crank it in. And I'm doing this because drilling these with a 1 inch or a 1/2 inch and then going up into 1/16, it's really tough on the drill press. This is just so much easier. Everything's nice and rigid this way. Not so much screaming or squealing or bouncing around. Not jamming up. And there it is. That's all it takes. I'll do the other one next. All right, folks. Well, we're at the end of this one. So this is my old 6-ton Central Hydraulics model 4711, made in China. It served me well. It was a tabletop model. As you can see, the bottom here is it's not the same color. I made it so that it was floor model. And there's the legs. I'm probably going to give this to a friend of mine who gave me the 20-ton, or I believe it's the 20-ton, the one that this video has been all about. And here it is, all finished. So the details on what I did to it, starting here, you can see these plates. Not well, but yeah, if I get up close, these are nice thick plates. And I don't think you're going to bend these. These cover the holes that are inside that were bent. And of course, here's the springs next with the caps that were drilled out, and the bottom caps are drilled out. And of course, this plate has it drilled out. Then here's my Zaluga. It was the least expensive and probably the cheapest 20-ton press on them that I could find. And I don't know if the Heinwarner is a 20-ton or a 10-ton or a 12-ton, but it's certainly capable of doing more than it did before. And the reason for that is these were 3/4 inch. They're now 1 inch, as I'm recapping here a little. I've double nutted them here and here. And up top, I've double nutted them. And I drilled this piece out to 1 inch to get these in, but then I plated on each side with some 1/4 inch or 3/8 plate. Didn't weld it in one corner, I forget where, but it's more than sufficient. I'll never press anything. Well, never say never. I don't believe I will overtax this like someone had done before. I did have to take this piece and turn it upside down. This piece right here, you can't see it, it's kind of dark. That's a cup that fit over the old jack, and the diameter is too small for this jack, which makes me think maybe it was a 12-ton. So I had to weld in a new one, and the easiest way was to just flip this upside down. And it's double nutted up top. So this guy is pretty much all set. So I'm pleased with the way it came out. I hope you enjoyed this repair and upgrade. I've already taken the old pieces and thrown them in my stockpile to use. So it was a reasonable task. It didn't come with these. I had these from someplace else, and I don't know where. But boy, they just fit in here really nice. So I'm golden here. Hope you liked this video. I skipped all the welding. There's a million people that do welding, and they do it better than me, so I don't want to show you my welding. I didn't clean that stuff up very good. It's for work. It's not a showcase model. I think I showed threading these on the lathe. That's about as detailed as we got. Drilling, threading, cut those off to length, drill these out. You get the idea. I'm a handyman. This is not a how-to, disclaimer, but hopefully it was entertaining enough. I don't have anything to press, so I don't know how good this 20-ton press really is, but it's probably got the same quality as my little 6-ton, so I'm assuming it'll press something heavier. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed it. The typical mantra: like, dislike, comment, subscribe, share, whatever. Another project done. Now I'm going to go back to some of the other stuff. I'm still working on a couple of projects. I was welding today outside. That little cup on top, it was 37 degrees. I don't weld inside. It's really the basement of my house, so it really gets kind of smoky. So I have to go outside. It was okay, but winter's going to limit how many things I do. So again, thanks for watching, and look out for the next one.